This is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon, and I, of course, am your host, Mitch Lafon, and this is a very, very special episode for me. I am going to see KISS for the final time on August 16th, 2019 in Montreal, and for me, it all started on August 6th, 1979. KISS rolled in to the Montreal Forum with the band New England opening up. And I know Gary Shea is a friend of mine on Facebook. So Gary, this is to you. And Hirsch, by the way. And, I had never seen a show up until that point, and there was this great excitement. I had discovered KISS, and I've told a lot of these stories a million times, so do bear with me, but this is sort of we're going to call it an emotional moment, right? I mean, it's the end of something. Anyway, so KISS, I'm sitting around my house, which is out in the country, or my parents' house out in the country, and there's ABBA records and Beethoven records, and I'm listening to Beethoven's Fifth and Beethoven's Ninth and Dancing Queen. And then my brother has a friend. I believe his name was Ted Lipkin. Could be wrong. Probably not. And my brother borrows KISS Love Gun and KISS Double Platinum. And the shininess of Double Platinum was just incredibly spectacular. It was just shiny and beveled. Maybe beveled is not the right word, but you know what I mean. You could touch it. It was raised. You could touch the lettering, and you could touch it. Anyway, it was something to behold for a young kid. And then there was the Love Gun album, and I think we all know what it looks like. That imagery, especially for, I don't know, I must have been 8, 9, 10 years old. You just looked at that and you went, wow. And then you open it up or you pull out the vinyl and you see the blood dripping KISS lettering. And it's just like, whoa. So you've got these larger than life. Anyway, gave those records a spin. Loved it. Later on in 78, there's the KISS movie. And by then I was in. I was buying the 16 magazines and the Teen Beats and anything, right? This was, I guess, before Metal Edge and before Metal Hammer and Kerrang and stuff. It was Teen Beat and Tiger Beat and 16 magazine and Grooves. There was one called Grooves, I remember. But you would look at this KISS stuff and the KISS imagery and it sold you something. You would flip through the pages and you'd see sort of a quirky, cheap trick picture or a down and dirty Aerosmith picture, and then a lot of Sean Cassidy and Leif Garrett. But okay, you would skip right by that. But then you would see the monsters. You would see KISS and Gene and Peter and Paul and Ace, and it would suck you in. Anyway, so August 1979 comes up. August 6, 1979 comes up, and I go to this show, and New England comes out, and it was okay. And, people were throwing toilet papers, and the room was just filled with smoke, because, of course, you could smoke in venues at that time, and there was just something very magical but dangerous of being there. And then KISS came out. And you heard that sound, and if anybody saw the Dynasty tour, you know what I was talking about. There was this sort of shaking sound, whatever it was, before the band emerged from under the stage, and it just captured the imagination. And anybody who saw Dynasty as their first KISS show understands what I'm talking about. It captured your imagination, and it never let it go. And I'm trying to think, there was a magazine, a fanzine at the time. I think it was called the KISS Underground. Was that it? Anyway, I subscribed. I sent my whatever it was, $3, $6, whatever it was. And every 4 months or so, or every 3 months, quarterly, they would send you a little thing. And it would be KISS has a new album. Anyway, so this was pre-internet, pre-news groups, pre-AOL, pre-dial-up. And you would get this fanzine, And it would say, new KISS album coming in May. New KISS album coming, in 1979. So I had all this built up, and that's what led me to go to this concert. The Dynasty came out, and it was the greatest thing ever because it was the first KISS album that I bought with my money or my dad's money or whoever's money it was. But, Love Gun was lying around and Dynasty was lying around. And, you know what? Actually, I'm going to be a little bit revisionist on this, but, I know that I went to Plattsburgh, New York, to a record town, I believe it was called, and we bought the 4 KISS solo albums at the end of 78, but we had bought those. My dad and I had bought them for my brother. So I guess they were the first albums, but Dynasty was the one that was the first KISS album. And that just stuck with me. Anyway, I go see the show. It's the greatest thing ever. And here we are 40 years later in 2019, August 16th. So 10 days to the day of my first KISS show will be the last KISS show. And it's, it's sad, but it's also very exciting, the fact that I got to buy into a band that stuck around for so long. Imagine had I been a diehard New England fan. And I mean no disrespect to New England. I love the guys. The first album's great. But I would have gotten 1 or 2 albums and out. There would have been no more. Or had I been a diehard, the Knack fan, there would have been whatever it was, 4 albums and gone. So I lucked out by being a KISS fan. And I think many of you would agree that we lucked out. We got a band that grew up with us, that moved with us, that changed with us. And I know fans love to complain. Oh, what they took off the makeup. Oh, they didn't. Oh, they changed members. Oh, Paul is and Vinny, and Tommy is not Ace, and Ace is not Tommy, and Bruce, and they should have kept the Revenge lineup, and But you know what? In that span, we've done things that if you look back, you could criticize. You shouldn't have dated that person. That was the wrong girl for you. That was the wrong dude for you. Shouldn't have taken that job. Shouldn't have quit that job. Should have gone to school. You shouldn't have mastered in that. Maybe sociology was a bad choice. We can second guess everybody and everything. So to sit around and criticize a band that has given you enjoyment time after time for 40 years, can't we just appreciate it? And so we do. Anyway, and I know I'm rambling all over the place, but that's the kind of emotion that KISS brings up. So we get back to June of 1980, June 9th, 1980. And I sit down with Gene Simmons at O'Coin Management. Now, folks always ask me, how did you get that interview? And remarkably, it was simple. It was a phone call. Now, June 1980, I was 11 years old, and I had a great vocabulary. I had been tested in school, and they said I had a university-level English proficiency. So I spoke well. And pre-internet, pre-Google, if you needed a phone number, there was a magical number called 555-1212. And you would put whatever area code in front of it, and you would be connected to the operator of that city, and they would give you whatever you need. So I'm sitting around in the house, bored, as I often was. I lived in an area that had no public transit, had no stores. So after you came home from school, that was it. There were, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 4 channels on TV. 2 of them were in French, and the TV was black and white. So you really just stared at a wall or listened to KISS or Cheap Trick or Aerosmith or whatever was lying around the house. And, like most of us, we would study the vinyls, we would study the words, we would study the imagery and conjure up stuff and try to draw the cover or try to write a new song. And I noticed on the back of the cover, it said Ocoin Management, New York, etc. So I called New York, 212-555-1212, Ocoin Management. And the operator said, sure, no problem. Gave me the phone number. And I phoned Ocoin Management and I said, hey, I would love to do an interview with KISS. And they said, okay. And they scheduled me to come and talk to Paul Stanley. And I'm like, oh, okay. Come to the office and talk to Paul Stanley. So I go tell my mom. I said, you won't believe this. And she didn't believe this. I said, I set up an interview with KISS. We're going to go down to New York to Ocoin Management and interview Paul Stanley. And she said, yes. She said, yes. Okay, we'll go. I mean, most of you, and even me, had I caught my mom maybe on a different day, if you went to your mom or your dad and said, we're going to New York to interview Gene Simmons or Paul Stanley, they would have said, get out of here. Go mow the lawn and leave me alone. Mom didn't do that. And before we're about to go, I got a call. Hey, speak to Mitch Lafon. This is me. We regret to inform you that we're going to have to cancel your interview with Paul Stanley. Ugh. You're going to do what? We're going to cancel your interview with Paul Stanley. Oh, come on. Okay, I understand. They said, however, Gene Simmons will be available on that day. Would that be okay? Would that be okay? Well, listen, I'm a little disappointed, but if I got to go to plan B, no, of course that's okay. Anyway, and that's what happened. They canceled the Paul. And up until 2018, was it 2018, 2019? No, up until 2018, I had never interviewed Paul Stanley. And in 2018, I got it done. Hey, hallelujah. Anyway, so the interview gets done, and I drive down, and the Unmasked album had just come out, and Peter Criss had just announced that he left, and Eric Carr hadn't been announced. The Palladium show was still 6 weeks away, or 5 weeks away, July 25th. Now, I have to say that when I was an 11-year-old boy, I sounded more like a 30-year-old woman than a boy or even a child girl. And so they expected a woman to show up. So I said to my mom, listen, you're going to have to do the interview. Now, keep in mind, my mom was doing, she was a professor, but she was doing this stuff with Radio Denmark, where she was sort of the Canadian correspondent for Radio Denmark, the official broadcaster in Denmark. And she would use the Canadian broadcasting studios to put together these pieces, which were 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 minutes or more. So we got dialed into the whole Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC and for short, and we got to borrow the gear from the CBC, and my mom went and checked it out, and we drove down to New York City. And the reason I'm telling you this is because my mom now had to be the interview. She had to interview Gene, but she didn't know KISS. She knew KISS because she had bought me some, the KISS whatever, KISS gum or whatever she was buying me at the time. By the way, was there ever a KISS gum? I guess there were the KISS Topps baseball cards. I think that came with a slab of gum, but she didn't know them really from a hole in the wall. So I wrote all her questions. And we get to Ocoin Management, and we thought, well, you know what, we're just going to walk in together and we'll interview Gene. But no, we get there, the secretary greets us. They say, Gene will be out in a minute to come and get you. And Gene walks out, and he's wearing this brown leather jacket, and there's no makeup. there's Gene Simmons, the demon, no makeup, looking very much like a hooligan. No, he doesn't. He didn't look like a hooligan. But he was just normal Gene. And my mom says, "Oh, here's my son-in-law," and whatever. I end up having to stay in the lobby, and my mom runs off. And a minute passes, and 2 minutes pass, and 3 minutes, and I'm just sitting in this lobby going, "Oh, come on!" And my mom emerges and says, "Come on in." And you'll hear on the tape, she said, "Hey, my son would like to ask you some questions." But I wasn't in the room at that time. And I get walked into this room at O'Coin Management, and there were gold and platinum records everywhere. It was like wallpaper. It literally went from the floor to the ceiling. And Gene took great pleasure in pointing them out. Here's a gold record from whatever, from France, and here's one from Sweden. There's a platinum record from, Lithuania, and here's a gold record from Switzerland, and there's a platinum record from Canada, and it was just like, whoa. I mean, it's an image burned into my mind, which is why I can still describe it to you today. And we do the interview. So on this episode, and man, am I rambling. Well, I'm not rambling. I'm telling you stories. You will hear that interview with Gene Simmons from June 9th, 1980 in full. And I am replaying this because I've posted it before, but it is my tribute to 40 years of live KISS. I have seen them, well, quite frankly, approximately 40 times. It might actually be my 40th KISS show, right? So in honor of August 6, 1979 to August 16th, 2019, 40 years of KISS giving it all. You wanted the best, you got the best. Damn right I did. I'm going to give you this interview, the first one I did with Gene Simmons at age 11. And then I'm going to put the old little Rock Talk bumper. It's going to be, "Hey, welcome back to Rock Talk." And I'm not going to give you more chit-chat. We're just going to go right in. Or maybe I'll give you some chit-chat. We'll see how I feel in 20 minutes. We're going to go right into the, I'm trying to think when it was. I think it was June 2017 interview with Gene, where he was talking about the Vault box set, which, by the way, I still don't have. I guess I won't be getting a promo copy of that anytime soon. Anyway, Gene started talking about the Vault, and that was the second interview with Gene, and currently the last. So you're going to get so this is all about my first show and the last show, and you're going to get the first interview and last interview with Gene Simmons. Now, I have managed to interview everybody in the band, or meet everybody, interview and or meet everybody in the band. At the Hot in the Shade tour, I got to meet Eric Carr. He wrote me a letter when I was a kid. I got to meet Bruce Kulick then, and Gene Simmons. Paul was not at the Hot in the Shade meet and greet in Montreal because he was sporting some rib injury. And then throughout the years of doing the broadcast stuff, I've interviewed Bruce Kulick easily a dozen times. I've interviewed Eric Singer at least 4 or 5 times, Tommy Thayer once, Vinnie Vincent twice, Paul Stanley once, Eric, who am I saying? Ace Frehley 3 times, Peter Criss once. I never interviewed Mark St. John, but I did meet him at a Toronto KISS convention. I was a vendor there. I was selling some stuff, and had a chance to meet him before the fans came in, and had a chance to meet him after the fans came in. But of course, it was that day and age when nobody had cell phones that could take pictures, and nobody usually ran around with a camera. So I don't have a picture of it, but I know it happened. And actually, Bruce Kulick was also at that show. And funny enough, I do have a picture of me and Bruce from that show. And we all went for a supper after that. Bruce went off with a young lady, and I joined them for supper, and then they went off at night. A friend, by the way, a friend. I'm not trying to insinuate anything. I've then got to be in studio with Eric and Bruce. We did an Ace Frehley tribute album called Return of the Comet. Bruce came in and recorded the song Liar with Brent Fitz on drums. This was before, was it before Union? Anyway, Brent Fitz was a completely unknown entity, and he came in and did that. And then we did Lover All I Can and Strange Ways with Carl Cochran and Eric Singer. And I have a great picture of Eric Singer from the studio that I keep here on my wall. So just a lot of great KISS memories over the year. And, boy, I'm just trying to think what comes, out of all the shows I've seen, what would be the best one? The 79 one was certainly marking being at the Palladium for Eric Carr's first show, July 25th, 1980. Absolutely spectacular, a great memory. I mean, it was also my first show in New York City. So a big moment for me, a little Montreal kid being in New York City for a big KISS show. What else? The reunion show at Tiger Stadium. It was billed as the first KISS show, and then they did the K-Rock stuff out in Irvine Meadows, and it sort of took a little bit of the shine off of being the first KISS one, but it was the first real long KISS one. The Irvine Meadows shows, the K-Rock, KROQ or whatever, K-Rock, whatever they were. I think it was Croc, right? Anyway, they were mostly warm-up gigs, and they did 10 songs rather than a full complement. But for those people that were at that shows, they will be, hey, I was at the first KISS reunion show, and hard to argue. But anyway, Tiger Stadium was great, and I saw 11 reunion shows, or I think it was 9 reunion shows and 2 Lost City shows. But listen, it was all reunion shows. Let's call a spade a spade. And that was spectacular. And the Hot in the Shade tour was great. Oh, Revenge. Boy, if my memory serves me right, it was October 5th, 1992, the Revenge show in Montreal. That lineup, that show, that set list, you're getting Deuce and Parasite and a whole bunch of songs that they hadn't played for a while. Man, freaking awesome. That stuff was awesome. Wow. All right, let's get into this. Here is, well, you wanted the best, you got the best, the hottest interview subject in the land. Here's Gene Simmons from June 9th, 1980. First up is my mom, Dr. Marianne Stenbeck, followed by, hi, it's Gene. It's Mitch Lafon. Enjoy. Here's Gene.
Gene, I wanted to start off by asking you, your new record is quite different from your old ones. What is it that has changed in the group to make this so different?
Well, why do you think it's different? That's what I'm curious about.
I have only heard it once yesterday. It seems more quiet, more mature.
Well, I don't know.
As if you're more interested in the words and in the message and just in...
Well, we had some things to say this time, I think. Mm-hmm. Not that we didn't have things to say all these other times, but I think songs like Naked City really talk about the kind of city that we live in, and we have different perspectives, different viewpoints, I think. But also, what you have to consider is that you can be KISS for 15 albums, and then every once in a while you do something different. And I think people will like it. I think that the only criteria we ever use when we sit down to do an album is to record the best songs that we have right then and there. And so the only you want me to hold this?
No, yes, fine.
Sure. And the only thing that we considered when we sat down was which were the best songs. That was it. We didn't think about the kind of songs they were, if they were fast or slow or loud. None of that was very important. It was just the best songs that we had. So what you hear is what we are like now.
How long did it actually take you to cut this album?
About 2.5 months. 2.5 months of actually recording, when most of the albums took about 3 weeks to a month and a half.
Now, there's this new style in music. Does that also mean that you're going to have a new style in your concert presentations?
I'm not so sure that it's a new style in music. I mean, I know that that's the way you hear it, but there's nothing new in the instruments that we're playing or the way we're playing them. The songs may be a little bit different. In other words, we're still playing guitars. Mm-hmm. Gene Simmons is not all of a sudden playing organ or something. But no, this is just, some more new songs. When we recorded Beth, which was a violin-laden kind of song, or when we did Hard Luck Woman, which had a lot of acoustic guitars, or other songs, they were different songs, but they were still KISS songs. And that didn't affect the stage show, except that I hope we can take this show to Europe, but in the American show, crazy things happen. Ace's guitar flies out of his hands, and another guitar appears in his hands, and he shoots it out of the sky, and I fly up 60 feet into the air at 6 feet a second, and land on top of the light truss, which is 60 feet overhead, and throw up on people's heads, and there's fire breathing, and the whole drum riser goes up 30 feet into the air and turns around 300. Have you seen the show in America?
Yeah, I've seen it in Montreal.
Yeah. So it's a pretty good show, I think. I think maybe it's the best show.
It probably is the best show around. Certainly it's the best rock show I have ever seen. Do you ever get a feeling that people come to see you more for the sake of the show than for the sake of the music?
Sure. I think that, and I think that that's good, because I think when you buy a KISS record, you only get the music. So whoever thinks that people are buying our records just because we play well live is missing the point. When you buy a KISS record, you don't get any flash pods. The record doesn't levitate above the above the machine. There's nothing extra that you get except maybe some presents that we give you, that we pay for, like posters or special things, maybe a special designed record sleeve or something special, but that we pay for. So you get nothing except the songs. So we take it for granted that people that buy the albums like the songs. When you see a band live, you should get 50% more than you'd get with an album. In other words, I don't just want to go see a band play their songs because I can stay home and just listen to the record. I hope that people come to see us live to see us more. Of course, you can always hear the record at home. In fact, I would imagine that there are some people who never buy the records who have to see the show live because it's the best show around. Of course.
Do you think that that's the reason you're number one, that you really give more show than anybody else, that you really give them something for their money? I think
that may be true. I think also the only people that can answer why we're so popular are the people that make us popular. You have to ask them, why do you like KISS? I can only tell you that it's my favorite band because it's the one that's the most fun. Nobody ever takes themselves too seriously. It's just a lot of fun. It's amazing to be able to walk into a toy store and see all these amazing toys, pinball machines. And did you see that machine?
Oh, yes.
It's amazing. I'm having the time of my life.
Yes, I'm sure. I certainly have that impression that as a rock group there are more extra things growing up about your group than about any other group that I can think of.
In fact, we're even talking now about having a KISSWorld, which is a traveling amusement park that would travel across the country.
What would that be like?
Oh, amazing rides, just fireworks and big air balloons, 100-foot balloons that go up into the air and take people for rides, and roller coasters, and just anything that we can imagine. That would involve the personalities of the band. And we're thinking of having an entranceway with these big 50-foot faces all forming together with the mouths open, and you walk through the mouth, into the amusement park. But this is all in the future. And then, of course, there are the movies. We're planning two movies. Mm-hmm. There's a German company that's working with us on doing a cartoon show for America. It's just beginning.
A cartoon where you would be the main characters, but you would appear in them as cartoons.
Right, superhero cartoons.
And what would the other movie be? You said 2 movies.
There's a science fiction movie with us as superheroes, through space and through time and all the rest of that. And then there's a kind of a movie that would follow us through Europe, and we'd bring along cameras. It would be about 2 girls who follow us all across Europe trying to get pictures of us without our makeup. And in the meantime, there's intrigue and spies and all the rest of that.
I see. You also just talked before we started the interview about some robots you're going to introduce in your show. Could you just tell me something about that?
Sure. There's so many things that are being worked on right now. It's a little bit hard to say, well, we'll do this and we'll do that. And anybody that's ever seen all our shows knows that every show is different completely. The costume change and the songs change, and of course the show changes. But right now we're working on these puppets who are about 3.5 to 4 feet tall. Mm-hmm. That are completely automized. In other words, we can control them from off stage in the same way that you in the same way that you can control those automatic planes that go through the air, same kind of process. And these talk and walk, and they can play drums and play guitars. And maybe we'll have these little people, little KISS puppets, go up on stage, play one song, and then get off the stage, and then have the real guys, 4 times as big, come out.
Fine, just hang on a second. Unfortunately, tape, I think it seems to...
It's funny, in Europe everybody uses...
very, very fast. I just have to turn it down, I think. What does people use in Europe? How long is your European tour going to last?
Well, we always get new pieces of paper every other week, but right now we've got a European tour that lasts about 6.5 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then we come back to America for a week's rest, and then we go to Australia and Japan and New Zealand and Singapore, and I don't even know where else. And then we come back to America to do an American tour, and then we do the next album in the spring. Not this spring, next spring.
So there's been no new album until next spring at all?
There may be a Peter Criss solo album before then.
I suppose the obvious question is to ask you, why did Peter leave?
There's nothing too complicated about that. Peter, has gotten remarried. Okay. He's got a beautiful wife who's the copper-tone girl, the suntan girl. So all over America there are these 50-foot posters of her, kind of leaning sideways, advertising suntan lotion. But he's very happy, and he just doesn't want to tour. He doesn't want to go out and tour anymore. He wants to stay home and make little Peter Crisses with little drum sets, And we have to respect that. We all grew up, we worked together for this one concept. Everybody created it, and we have to respect his wishes. And we had a choice. The choice was to quit, to break the band up because one member didn't want to tour, or to continue the concept. And we all sat down and talked about it with Peter, and Peter agreed that we should go on. Now, Peter's going to remain a member in the partnership. Nobody was fired, nobody quit. He's going to remain a member in the partnership, and he's going to record solo albums, and I don't think he wants to tour. And we're going to get a new member with a new concept, new design.
Has the new member been chosen?
Yes.
But you're not going to say?
Not yet.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. You talked about this, that you give more to your audience, and what we were really wanted very much to find out was, why is it that somehow you, more than any other group, has become not just a musical group, but almost an institution, a religion, a cult for millions and millions of people? What is this sort of specific fantasy world that you think you've built up, if it is a fantasy world?
I think you can answer it very simply. I think you can answer it with one word: fun. What I mean by that is you can... the reason we put out toys and the reason we get involved with that is because it's fun. I like toys. I don't do it for you or for anybody else. I want a pinball machine. So if I see a lunchbox, I like lunchboxes, and I want my face on them. We try to make everything that we do fun, from the stage show to the albums. When you buy the album, we really spend a lot of time and money in trying to make them as interesting looking as possible. And anything that we do, we try to have a good time with. I think, it's the reason Superman or Santa Claus or any one of these big heroes are popular. It's because they're fun, because they don't tell you how to wear your hair, who to vote for, what kind of religion you should have. A performer shouldn't tell you that. And we never try to tell anybody what to do.
But yet you have been banned in a few places for, they say devil worshipping or some other silly things like that. How do you feel about that?
it's unfortunate, but I think these people are misguided. It's a shame that they can't spend their time and their energy and their money on something more important, like getting food to poor people, or, I mean, that's far more important. The amount of money that they spend on making sure that everybody thought that we were devil worshippers, they could help some people out. So I feel sorry for them. It's unfortunate. But it's nothing new. Beatle records were burned. Elvis was the devil, you know. That's okay.
Do you feel, you don't feel at all that you're leading children astray, or you don't think there's any background to that kind of accusation? I mean, I don't feel so either.
To where? I mean,
leading them to... They say, well, you know, to lead them to devil worshipping, or... Oh, and they say all this blood and gore and so on is going to have a very negative effect on them.
I think if anybody's going to have an objection about the band, I think you can simply turn on the television and then tell me which is gorier. You never saw anybody in KISS beat anybody up. And we never tell you to do any one of those things. It's not what we're about. But I think anything that we will do, we're going to do for shocking purposes. You know, we'll do almost anything to make the show interesting. But look, whenever anything gets popular, there are people who have nothing better to do with their time than to assault it. It doesn't mean, even Christmas, you know, even with Christmas time, you've got a person in American literature, in English literature, whose name is Ebenezer Scrooge. Mm-hmm. And all he does is he says how terrible it is that everybody's having such a good time. Yeah. But the truth is there's only one person having a bad time. So that's what our new album cover is about. There's always one idiot out there, you know, who can't figure out why all the people are having a good time, but he's rotten. Oh, they're terrible, you know.
Do you feel by and large you have been treated fairly by the press, or
Oh, of course. No matter... Even the press that hates us, well, most press hate us, realize that you can't avoid us, and so they always print pictures of us and spell our name right. So I don't care what anybody says about us, as long as you print the pictures and spell our name right. So that's fine. People will always decide what they like, no matter what anybody tells them.
That's true. What do you think, if you say you're not trying to tell anybody anything in your songs, but do they have some kind of message anyway that you would like to get across, or... Is it just, let's all have fun, or is there something more?
There are no messages. What is the message in circus, when you go to see a circus? Mm-hmm. There are no messages. Hopefully it's entertaining, but nobody's telling you to do anything. When somebody does a somersault, or when somebody breathes fire, there's no message. The only purpose is to entertain you. So, you know, the song titles that we've got are not leading. It doesn't say... destroy the world. It doesn't say go do this or go do that. They're very simple kinds of songs that talk about what it's like to live in New York City. Mm-hmm. A girl who's very European, you know, in her...
It's about a girl you hope to meet, I gather.
We will meet them. They're out there.
Yes, I know they are. Okay, for the moment, to ask a question. What is it you would like to ask, Jean?
Why do you have makeup?
Oh my God, what a question.
Yeah.
Maybe you should hold it.
Why do we wear makeup?
Yeah.
Why do you wear sneakers?
So you don't get your feet cut like that.
Well, he got out of that very nicely. I think the only reason we ever decided to wear makeup or costumes or anything else was to try to make KISS a special kind of band. I didn't want to look like anybody else. I didn't want to wear... I mean, if I dressed like this and walked out on stage, it wouldn't be very exciting. Also, the makeup is another way of expressing your personality, you know? Clowns do it, and actors do it, and, you know, a long time ago when Indians went on war, when they went into war...
In the rain dancer.
Right. Witch doctors would put on makeup, and dancers would put on makeup, and a lot of people still do it. They have masquerade parties and Halloween. It's just a way of dressing up for a special event. You know, every show for us is special.
Yeah, but like most things say that they say that it's, you know, so like people will follow them until they take off their makeup.
What do you mean? I didn't understand that.
Like in the magazine they say that you'll follow, the fans will follow you if you have the makeup until you take it off.
But it's sort of an extra public relations that is part of your fascination that nobody would ever, you know.
Oh, of course. In other words, you think that if we took the makeup off, people wouldn't follow us. It's possible. It's also possible that if Santa Claus stopped wearing his red outfit and took the pillows away from his stomach and you found out that it was your father, you know, coming through the chimney, or it was your uncle or somebody, that Santa Claus would stop being a magical kind of person. I think maybe you're right. I think maybe if Superman stopped wearing his costume and just dressed up like Clark Kent, maybe he wouldn't be Superman anymore. Maybe you're right.
Are you a kind of modern-day clown?
No, I don't think clown, because I'm not making fun of myself.
No, but I meant in the general context of entertaining, bringing happiness.
Yeah, maybe modern-day heroes I like more, only because clowns make fun of themselves. They don't take themselves seriously. We do. I mean, Superman or somebody like that will never make fun of himself, even though he's dressed very strangely, you know, blue and red tights and a cape, a red cape. So that's very... it's not normal for a man to wear that. Now, that doesn't mean it's good or bad. But I don't think clowns is the word. Maybe heroes.
Do you have anything else?
Well, what do you think about the people who sell things without you knowing about it?
What do you think about people who sell things without us knowing about it?
I don't know. I
bet you do.
I think it's, well, you know, if they have a good time, I think it's okay for them.
I don't, and I'll tell you why I don't agree. If somebody can sell something and put our name on it, let's say you bought a T-shirt and it said KISS on it, but we never told these people that they had the right to do it. Now, let's say you take the shirt home, the T-shirt home, and it shrinks. Or let's say the KISS falls off and you want your money back. Now, you can't go back to these people because they don't exist. They disappear. All they care about is taking your money and disappearing. But if you buy something that says KISS on it that we authorize, we ultimately are responsible for it. So if you buy a truck and it doesn't work, you can take it back to the manufacturer and say, look, this doesn't work, and you can get your money back. And that's the most important reason for making sure that you authorize something.
But the people who sell, like, these pictures and all this, what do you think? Some people in London sell pictures of you and all this.
I think it's wrong. They know it's wrong. And if they...
They do it for the money.
Yeah, they do it for the money. And if they become very big, you know, if they do a lot of business, then our lawyers call them and they get sued. And that's life.
Well, like, there's one thing called the KISS Underground, and they said that you joined it.
Yeah, that's true. Now, see, that's a nice little thing. There are some guys from Kansas City someplace who put out a little magazine all by themselves. Now, it's really not supposed to happen, except we don't see that they're money hungry. They're not trying to rob anybody, you know, and they're not charging a lot of money for it. It's just a hobby, and so we support it. You know, we send little articles and we call them up on the phone and say hi. But the people and they give their address, so you can write in and say, look, I didn't get my magazine. Would you send another one? And they'll send it to you. But the people that bootleg, that's a word that means somebody who puts out something.
Yeah, but, like, there's some bootlegs that have names. Like,
that's what says that's okay.
Like, I have a name, like, there's some that says bootlegs, destroys Anaheim, and takes on Tokyo. And things like
that. Those are records that came out that were not authorized. Those records are not supposed to be out there because they're not good records. If you listen to those records, they're recorded live and they sound terrible. And that's why we said that they weren't allowed to do it. But they did it. And they may have been taken to court. I don't know.
Because, like, there's lots of people who sell them, like...
Oh, I know.
All kinds of people all over the place, they sell them.
Thousands.
Like, there's a French magazine there. They say that there's two different... One says that when you were a teacher, you liked the students, and this one they say that you quit because you couldn't control them and you hated them.
No, the reason I stopped being a teacher is because I found out that I didn't want to be a teacher. I thought if I stood in front of everybody would listen to me and everybody would be looking at me. And that's the wrong reason to be a teacher. You should want to be a teacher because you want to convey knowledge. And I found out that I wanted to be a teacher only so that people can look at me and listen to what I was saying. And that's the wrong reason, you know. I mean, also at the end of the day, no matter how good my lesson was, nobody clapped. Nobody went, yay, that was a great lesson. And that's what I was looking for.
Teach?
6th grade.
What course? English, French?
All of them.
Everything.
When you teach 6th grade.
What did Peter lead? Did he have a
I
contract
already
for
asked
that?
that, okay? And I think
He
Gene
left.
Simmons has to go in a minute or so. I know you would love to spend your whole life with him. I know that. Now, if you had been very lucky, he might have been your teacher.
Is that true when you were in, when you begin that you had empty amps on the stage to make like
To make it bigger? Yes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. You had to fool, you had to make people believe that you were something special. We couldn't afford it. We didn't have any money to buy a lot of amplifiers.
Well, after the first record, you start having a little more.
Yeah, but we didn't. Not until the 4th record did anything really big happen because it cost so much to tour.
Did like when you and Paul when you started off? Did you ever have anything like? Did you have a name of a group like I don't know, like Cheap Trick before they came famous? Before when only had 2 members, they called Fuse.
Yeah, I know that. That's very good. And before that, they were called Sick Man of Europe. Did you know that?
No.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Gene.
Now back to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
There you have it, folks. Once again, I have played for you the interview I did with Gene Simmons when I was 11 years old. It is something to be proud of, I guess. Something I just I can't let go of. But big thank you to Gene for having taken the time to answer those questions. And then we're going to move along to the 2017 interview where Gene is talking about the vault. But before we get to that, just I want to say to Gene, to Paul, to Eric Carr, Eric Singer, Bruce Kulig, Vinnie Vincent, Mark St. John, and I don't know if I've forgotten anybody, but Tommy Thayer. From the bottom of my heart, just to thank you. Thank you for all the music. Thank you for all the shows. Thank you for all the entertainment, whether it's Gene Simmons' Family Jewels or the Paul Stanley live DVD where he was with the Rockstar in Excess band or Rockstar Supernova band or whatever they were called. And thank you for all the shows, the ones I saw in Montreal and Toronto and Ottawa and Quebec and New York and Los Angeles and all the other places I went to, especially on the reunion tour. Thank you for that reunion tour, by the way. That reignited my passions. Thank you to Eric Singer for joining the band in '92. And I've said this many times, but I was walking through the living room and Much Music was on TV just randomly. And I saw this KISS video for Unholy and I was like, wow, what is this? And I saw the drummer and I was like, man, who's that guy? Again, because in '92, we didn't have access to internet or Google. You didn't know when a band changed members. You would just show up and go, hey, that guy doesn't look familiar. And that reignited my passions for KISS because, and I've said this previously, but by 1992, I was all about Metallica Black Album and Def Leppard and Motley Crue and Bon Jovi. And KISS had sort of taken a back seat. Aerosmith was in the forefront for me then, but KISS had taken a back seat, and I saw that Unholy video randomly on TV, and I was like, whoa! And I went out, I think the same day or maybe the next day to try to buy the album, and they're like, oh, no, it only comes out in a couple of months, or it only comes out in a month, and I was like, no, I need this now! How dare you! What is this, putting a video on TV that you can't go purchase immediately? Jeez. So thank you for that. Thank you for everything. And I look forward to the last show. And next week, if you listen to this show, you will hear me talk about the last show. But it is, for me, 40 years almost to the day. And it's remarkable considering I'm only 39 years old. But anyway, here we go. My final interview with Gene Simmons from September, not June, September of 2017. Here is the one, the only, the mighty Gene Simmons.
Hi, it's Gene Simmons.
Hello, Gene. Pleasure to speak with you. And
Thank you.
Yes, very much looking forward to the release of The Vault. So I just wanted to get talking about that. Tell me about the different fan experiences that are going to be offered.
Well, everybody should forget all that. There's been a lot of chatter about this, of experience. I don't care about that experience thing. Here's the headline. Because I'm fortunate and blessed and the fans have given me the life that I never dreamed possible, at my cost for jets and hotels and security and insurance and all that, I'm going to fly around the world and hand deliver every single Gene Simmons vault into the sweaty palms of those who order it. The simple idea is fans go to GeneSimmonsVault.com. It'll answer all the questions. But in short, this is the largest box set of all time. It features half a century, 50 years of unreleased tracks, 150 tracks that have never been released that start 1966 to 2016. Songs I've co-written with Bob Dylan, who was kind enough to come over to my house 20 years ago, and we wrote 3 songs together. I also recorded the actual songwriting process where we're kidding around and playing guitar. That's in the box set. The Van Halen brothers joined me for 3 songs from 1978. Joe Perry from Aerosmith is on one. All the KISS guys are on a few. I mean, it just goes on and on. The actual Gene Simmons vault is 38 pounds, right under 3 feet tall, under 2 feet wide, and literally has metal wheels and is designed to last a lifetime. It has a 50,000-word huge book with hundreds of photos from my private collection, 10 CDs. It's the monster of all box sets. I should call it Godzilla, but the name's taken. So the simple idea is there will be very few of these made, a few thousand in the world. No retail, no stores, no downloading, no file sharing, none of that not cloud nonsense. This is a piece of art that I take great pride in, and at my expense, I'm going to fly around the world and hand deliver it to those who purchase. Only a few thousand on Earth will be made. And then the rest, for those of you that can afford it and want to do extra special stuff, you can find out all the other stuff by going to GeneSimmonsVault.com.
Talk to me about the writing process with Bob Dylan. How does Gene Simmons and Bob Dylan get together? And was it for a solo album? Was it for a KISS album? How does that come about?
Well, I never write for any particular thing. I just write. When you feel like it's coming on, you take the time and whatever comes out, comes out. How did Bob happen? I called up the manager and I said, "Hi, it's Gene Simmons." They go, "Oh, hello." I said, "What's up?" I said, "I want to write with Bob." They're going, "Well," and then from the background, "Yeah, well." So he, no kinder, more generous guy, real charmer. We talked for a little bit, and sure enough, within a day or two, there was an unmarked white van, and Bob came to my house, and we sat around and traded licks and try this chord, that chord. We talked about philosophy and how do you write songs, and if you can imagine, Bob Dylan is asking me how I write songs. I wanted to just blabber and say, I'm not worthy. And all of that is also on the box set, the actual songwriting process.
Right. Now, other than Paul McCartney, I would imagine that sitting down with Bob Dylan's got to be sort of a fan experience for you.
Well, it would be amazing for me, but even Paul McCartney buckles his knees for Bob Dylan.
Yeah, exactly. Talk to me about those demos with Eddie Van Halen, Alex Van Halen. They were, of course, for the Love Gun album. Why, for example, were they not included on the original KISS box set? And is it finally nice to have them available to fans now?
Well, I discovered Van Halen and playing in a club and signed them to my Man of a Thousand Faces production company, flew them to New York, produced 15 songs at Electric Lady Studios. And then when I got too busy, I tore up the contract and I said, "You guys are free. I got to go back out on tour. And if I have time at the end of the tour, I'll go shopping, for a deal for you. But I can't ethically, personally hold on to you guys while I'm off on tour, not doing anything." So I did the right thing. And the guys, of course, got signed right away. And in return, the brothers Van Halen were kind enough to appear on 3 songs that I wrote when we came back from Japan in 1978. And one of those songs was Christine 16 that we recorded about 2 a.m. in the morning. And none of the songs were written or recorded for any particular album. It's just I constantly wrote and recorded and still do. As the stuff comes out, you don't think about what you're doing now. And then when you take a look at an album, I mean, Paul's different. You know, he'll write specifically for an album. I never did that, which is why some of the material is Beatlesque or keyboard-based, and some of it is real, you know, hard rock, guitars, bass, drums, that kind of stuff. And some of the tracks, I play all the instruments and engineer and produce it and do all that. And some of the, well, it's difficult to describe 150 never-before-released tracks spanning half a century.
Now, for those that won't be able to afford the price point as it's set, will there be a sort of regular CD release 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, or is it sort of...
It'll never happen. I'd rather destroy everything. A Rolls Royce is a Rolls Royce, and it should never be on sale. This is the only way, if somebody wants it, $2,000 for the largest box set of all time, and at my cost, I will fly around the world and pay for insurance and security and my hotel bills and all that, and I will personally hand deliver every single box set to the fans. No other way of getting it, and there are only a few thousand available that will ever be made around the world.
Right. The band is approaching 45 years of existence, and by the way, as a fan myself, thank you for that, because band's meant a great deal to me in my life. Why do you think, you know, you really have, it's gone from songs that just put you in a good mood to songs that dig you out of a hole to songs that sort of, you know, KISS has just been more than, you know. But the question is how did KISS create such a passionate fan base? Because when you go on the internet, you see people arguing about Ace is Peter and Bruce is better than this, and you don't see that for the Scorpions, and you don't see that for Foreigner. Where did that passion come from for KISS?
I think it's when you're a member of a family and, you know, dad is no longer a member of the family. I mean, he'll always be kind of because he's your dad. And he was asked to leave because he was a drunk or, you know, or did something wrong. You know, the kids always argue about why can't you just get back? They don't understand the dynamics. But that's what families are. You know, bands in a very real way, if you stick around for 44 years, are families. You know, often you spend more time with your bandmates than you do with your blood relatives. So, by the way, tomorrow I'm doing the benefit concert, Gene Simmons Band, my side band, in St. Paul. The proceeds going to hurricane relief for our fellow Americans in Houston. On the bill will be the Gene Simmons Band, Don Felder, Cheap Trick, the Jayhawks, and Ace Frehley called me and wanted to jump up on stage and lend his support. Sure, of course. And a few months back, Ace asked me to come over to his place and write for his next solo record. So we wrote 2 songs together, and he's going to record those. But, you know, being in a band is messy, and relationships are messy, and nothing is easy. And very few people get to have a long-lasting relationship because many people are not designed to run marathons, you know? Almost anybody can run a quick spurt.
Right.
But to be around 44, 45 years, you know, it's a peculiar person. I'm peculiar.
Well, and we appreciate that. You know, the Gene Simmons solo band, Paul has obviously done stuff in the 80s, and he had Eric Singer and Bob Kulick and all this stuff. You sort of resisted or never really did it. Now you are. Sort of what took so long, and does this lead to a Gene Simmons solo album? Does this lead to more solo dates, or are these also very finite, where we're doing them, fans have wanted it, and when they're done, they're done?
You know, I have no idea. All I know is I'm having the time of my life. Right now, every day, I'm living, breathing, living the Gene Simmons Vault.com experience, and I can't wait to hand deliver the box sets to fans, every one of them around the world. Where are you broadcasting from?
Montreal. And I would love to have one hand delivered to Montreal.
Yes, I will go to Montreal. It's fair to say if you live in the North Pole and one person orders the box set, I'm not going to the North Pole, okay? But nearby, sure. Up in the Great White North, you bet. And I want to make sure people understand there are only a few thousand that will ever be made. There's going to be no cheaper version, no online, schmonline, no clouds, no popcorn farts, no stores. It's only available, and it's Godzilla-sized version, and that's it. I don't ever want to see an on-sale sign at a Rolls-Royce dealership, okay? I want it to maintain its integrity. It's a Rolls-Royce. That's what it is. You like it? Buy it. You don't like it? Don't. So,
Yeah.
in short, the largest box set of all time, and I described what's in it, is $2,000. I'll pay for airplane flights, hotels, insurance, security, all that stuff. And of course, the accountants and lawyers think I'm out of my mind, but I can afford it. You want it? Come and get it. First come, first served. After the supply is depleted, my guess is before January, there will be no more. But starting January, I'm taking a year off from touring, and I will fly around the world and hand deliver every single box set to the fans.
18 hours of music on top of that. Now, you just quickly said you're taking a year off of touring, so that means no solo dates and therefore no KISS dates for 2018.
Well, no KISS dates, or if we have a free weekend and there's less going on, sure. But if I'm going to New Zealand and Australia, you want to plan so that when you go to New Zealand, you'll hit Australia next and so on. And it's difficult to crisscross the world if you have, one person in Russia and 100 people in South Africa. You got to plan it so it makes sense. So convenience for the fans and for me is important because you don't want to force anybody to, hey, let's meet Saturday. Oh, I'm sorry, my daughter's having a birthday and I'm not available that day. So you got to plan this way in advance. It will get done. I'm committed to this. Don't worry about the details. I get whatever I commit to, I get it done.
Well, that is certainly something that I can agree with over 45 years. KISS has always delivered on their promises, and you and Paul, I should say, have also always delivered on your promises. I know we only have 15 minutes, so I just want to ask one or two last ones here. You mentioned that KISS was a family. Reunion talk aside, do you ever see yourself getting on stage with Bruce and Ace and Peter and just do like one song and a special concert at Madison Square Garden where they all come out and do two songs from their era, or has that sort of ship passed?
Oh, I mean, if you're going to do a one-off, anything's possible. In fact, Bruce Kulick and Bob Kulick are going to be on the KISS cruise. We have wonderful lineups, and we have an awful lot of fun. So there are no rules. It's just that, if you're on a team, you want consistency. You want to be able to have a guy you can count on when you pass the ball because the whole team depends on that, right?
Absolutely.
And so if the guy you pass the ball to is on drugs or alcohol, the whole team goes down. You're depending on each other, all for one for all. And our original members, Ace and Peter, were, the best things that ever happened to us. We couldn't have happened without them. But if you succumb even to the cliche of cliches, the bus leaves without you. That's life. You don't get to determine who and what everybody does based on your timeline. Or, I want to take a year off and do nothing. No. Or I'm not healthy enough to be on stage. But, I think both Peter and Ace are in a great frame of mind, finally cleaned up, and that's great because we love them and support them. But 3 times in and out of the band, that's enough.
Yeah, and as a fan also, I have to say I'm glad that I was introduced to a talent like Bruce Kulick, to a talent like Eric Singer, and of course Eric Carr, we can't forget. They've added greatly to the whole music landscape, so, good for that. And then we'll finish with this.
People think in terms of finite ideas. AC/DC can't exist without Bon Scott. Actually, they can. And they can exist without, Brian. No, actually, they can. Axl did a fine job. and Van Halen, who I discovered can't exist without David Lee Roth. Actually, they got bigger with Sammy Hagar. So all these rules mean very little, and the fans will continue to argue with themselves, with each other. I like this, you like black, I like red. Well, that's nice. But a band is a dynamic thing. It breathes, it's alive, and it's only as good as the people in it. Like any relationship, whether it's marriage or friendship, a football game or a band, it's only as good as the team involved. And so you're right. If you go to GeneSimmonsVault.com and you're the first one of the first ones, you'll get your Gene Simmons Vault box set delivered to you by Gene Simmons wherever the hell you are.
Yeah.
If you come in later, that's life.
And by the way, there's a book in there that I'm almost more excited about the book than the music, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. It's just that those pictures and the stories.
I understand.
You know what I mean?
Right. It's a 50,000-word book that I wrote that has hundreds of photos. And I mean, it's you got to see it to believe it. It literally weighs 38 pounds. I should have called it Godzilla, but the name is taken.
Right, and if I may, I'll finish on this. Do we ever see another new KISS album, or is that also sort of? I am sour on the whole idea because I don't want to work my ass off, and for fans to decide to download and file share. There's no incentive for me whatsoever. KISS is not a charity, although I give to charity a lot. But I'll decide. I suspect what you do for a living, you get paid. Of course.
And I don't want anybody to determine, you have enough money. You know what? I'll determine what that is. So the incentive to do a new album, I write songs all the time, but maybe the old-fashioned way of doing it, downloading or file sharing, not interested in the least.
Yeah, and I have to say I fully agree with you. I mean, you wouldn't go into a furniture store and then walk out with a chair and say, well, I feel like having it today. Well, that's not how it works.
Well, next week the furniture store would be out of business.
Well, that's
By
exactly
the way,
it.
they just told me that I've got to move on. My apologies.
No, thank you, Gene. Great pleasure, and thank you for the 45 years of great KISS music and great Gene Simmons quotes and music and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you, boss.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk.